Today, I'm going to continue a conversation that we've been having about accessory tones. The phrase accessory tones is one used to describe notes that decorate the structural tones in a melody. Now, accessory tones is a sort of all-encompassing phrase that addresses every tone that's not structural. This is not going to be on the test, by the way, but I think that you'll get some really great insights, so I wanted us to dig into this. If you just sit back and listen to the discussion, and if you want to dive deeper after that, you can. Just go back and take some notes. Now, as you've already learned, an accessory tone can be a tone that is in the harmony or that is not in the harmony, or in or not in the scale of the key the piece is in. But today we're going to talk about the non-harmonic tones that decorate your really cool lines. What I'm really hoping for you to experience is not a memorized list as much as it is a way to spark some new ideas. I have about 10 of these non-harmonic tones to tell you about today, depending on how you're counting. Non-harmonic tones, which is a scarier term, I would say, carry a lot of the expressive power in music, and that's why you need to know about them, or at least have some command of them, whether it be intellectual or intuitive. Of course, you're aware of the difference between a step, which is an adjacent tone, and a skip. It's the difference between taking one stair at a time, using every stair tread, and skipping one or two of them as you go up or down the staircase. Some non-harmonic tones are about steps, and some are about skips, and some are about both. Passing tones are stepwise motion, for example, like this, with a C chord. This one is the passing tone. Or, in that second case, F is the passing tone. Okay, so let's start with a simple tune. Mary Had a Little Lamb. Now, I'll come up with some better stuff as we go along, but I mean, the key of C and the chord is a C chord. So, right? So, the D, which is the second and fourth note of this melody, is not in the chord C, E, G. So that was built into this tune by the composer. I don't know if it's the composer, but what if I play this? The D flat, and the D sharp that result from this are all non-harmonic tones, and they're all passing tones. Now remember, if you have a long distance between chord tones, like say fifth to the root above it, there can be two or more passing tones. In a key of C, where the fifth is the G and the root is C, the passing tones that are present and in the C scale are A and B. So like this. There's the fifth, there's the root. So if you go from the fifth to the root and put some passing tones in, you go like that. Now let's look at a few other kinds of non-harmonic tones. Next on the list are neighbor tones. Now here's an upper neighbor. The chord is C, and I'm going to play E, F, E, which is the third, then to the upper neighbor of F, which is not in the C chord, and then back to the E. This goes from the chord tone to a tone above the chord tone, then back to the same chord tone. That makes it a neighbor. I could use the lower neighbor, like E, D, E. Then there are neighbor groups, which as the name implies are more than one neighbor in a passage. A neighbor group could be this, E, F, E, D, E. Chord tone, upper neighbor, chord tone, lower neighbor, chord tone. There are accented and unaccented neighbor tones. Like passing tones, most neighbor tones are unaccented. Also, you can go to a neighbor and then not go back to the originating note, but go somewhere else. And that has another name, which I'll get into in a minute. Now, those were in the scale, but not in the chord. What if we want more chromaticism? In that case, not only are the neighbor tones not in the chord, the D sharp is also not in the key of C, right? So the next one is an escape tone. Now, an escape tone is approached by step and left by leap. So it's a neighbor tone that makes a daring escape. Let's look at this in the Star Spangled Banner, right? So That's the third of the C chord we're on. And then this is an upper neighbor. And then that just leaps down to the D, which is the fifth of the G7, which is the chord that happens there. So it basically, the F just escapes and goes down to that D. The next non-harmonic tone I want to talk about is leaning tone, or it's called an appoggiatura in Italian. You'll hear that a lot in English too, which means in Italian to lean upon. This is approached by leap and resolved by step and is incredibly expressive. I think as much as any non-harmonic tone, this shows the power of having the control over these melodic ideas. When one of these tones lean like an appoggiatura does, it expresses a yearning quality. And if you want a yearning quality, get yourself an appoggiatura. Check this out. You recognize that, right? Or how about this one? Right? By the way, a difference between a grace note and this non-harmonic leaning tone is that the leaning tone is definitely longer than a grace note. A grace note generally precedes the beat, whereas a leaning tone is generally on the beat. So a grace note might be like that, whereas the leaning tone, the appoggiatura, is, it leans on it, right? So another type of non-harmonic tone is an anticipation. An anticipation, actually the word's used in a few places. One of the places it's used is just when something is on the and of the beat before the structural beat, like maybe it'll be on the and of 4 instead of 1. People use the term that way. But in terms of non-harmonic tones, it's where the melody note anticipates the chord tone. So here we go. We got F, G7. So the C, the last one I played in melody, actually clashes with the chord for a second. And that usually happens at cadences. Now the suspension is just the opposite. It lasts past the chord change. This is where the term sus chords comes from. But in reality, to talk about a suspension as in a non-harmonic tone is to talk about voice leading, which we'll do in future videos because voice leading is a very important concept. So here I'm going to use F as the melody note. And so that on this F chord, which is a 4 chord by the way, is the root. And then on this G7 chord, it's the 7th. And then when I go to C, that note is not in the chord of C. So you'll get something that sounds like this. Like that. The last one is a pedal point. And that's where a tone stays the same during harmonic movement and becomes a non-chord tone when the harmony changes. It can be as dissonant or as consonant as you need it to be, depending on the style of music you're doing. A pedal point gets its name from the organ, where there's a range of keys which is actually on the floor, and your foot plays them, and they play bass notes. So a lot of times they're associated with the bass, right? So here's an example. There's a C minor, there's a B flat, and there's an F, and the C is in the bass on all 3 of them. So in this world, the C minor, this would be a chord tone, obviously. That's not. Here's another example, same chords, but let's put it in the middle. So I'm going to put it on middle C, and then so the C is the pedal point, right? Or you could put it up in an upper octave like this. And this would basically be considered harmonic in this chord, non-harmonic in this chord, and then harmonic in this chord. So these are some non-harmonic tones that you can use to create incredible melodies with real emotion. If this video does well enough that I see some interest, and especially if I get some comments that express that interest, I'll do a video soon with some exercises to help you get these into your playing and writing. Keep in mind that we want all this stuff to become intuitive. Some of your best artists have an intuitive sense of this and not an intellectual sense. And, in the end, it's not going to touch the hearts of your listeners to hear your fancy explanation of these melodic tricks. It's in your ability to be able to express yourself with them, which is what is all important. And, of course, knowing about them, having discrete knowledge of what each one is and what it does, is all important as well.